Hjertelig velkommen til et nytt program her på Israelkanalen. Denne gangen så skal jeg ta dere med til Stortinget, der vi skal være med på relanseringen av Norwegian Israel Allies Caucus, så følg med på dette.
So, Josh and Leo, it's a pleasure for us to welcome the Israel Allies Foundation to Norway, and a pleasure to have you here in the Parliament as well. And looking very forward to our cooperation going ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, for us, this is a new step, a new page between Norway and Israel. As you know, your current government is supporting the terror organization Hamas. And it's hard to even say that, to think that Norway, the government, the official government of Norway would support terror and be against the only free democracy in the Middle East. But unfortunately, that's where we are today. And we're hoping that this relaunch of the Norwegian Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus under your leadership will be a new page for Israel, that new leaders will come up and say that we're going to stand with Israel. We're going to reject the lies about Israel. And so today is the first day in what we hope is a new chapter in the relationship between Norway and Israel.
Norway really needs a new policy towards Israel and the Middle East. And as my party leader said at the Oslo Symposium as well, we find it a shame that the Norwegian current government decided to recognize a Palestinian state without a negotiation, without any criteria at all. For example, that the hostages should be released. So we really need a new policy towards Israel, and I'm sure that, and I hope that my party will stand for that after the election.
It's very telling. We want to see, you know, what the people of Norway think about this policy, and the only way to see that is during election time. A lot of people talk about how the Norwegian people stand with Israel, and we believe that. We believe that there's a big base of Christian support here, nominal support, even people who are not affiliated are supporting Israel. But the question is how much of this current administration's policy on Israel will affect the voter base. And so in September, we'll know.
And I'm so happy that Jan-Erik Berg, my dear friend, is the country head for IAF, and you have worked on Norway-Israel relations for more than 30 years, I think.
That's right. And it's very important for me. So it's a hard issue.
Yeah, we'd like to thank our country director, Jan-Erik, for all he's done to make this a success. We know that you'll be meeting with the full caucus in 2 weeks to bring everyone up to speed. We have with us here also the European director of the Israel Allies Foundation, Leo van Doesburg. And Leo is presenting information about many issues to do with Israel, because one of the most important things is education. And so maybe, Leo, you want to talk about that?
Yes. Well, we saw a lot of growth in Europe, and encouraging to see that more and more Christian and Jewish politicians standing up for Israel. However, we see also that Israel is not only facing a warfare, but also a lawfare. So you see that international law is getting manipulated in order to attack Israel politically. And we see that a lot of politicians need also objective-based information, so to bring back from the framing into objective discussions. So yes, indeed, it is very important to not only to educate, also to give the right information, the tools to really bring insight in the situations. So therefore, I'm also very happy and honored to be here, and it's good that the caucus will be relaunched. And we will be able to equip and empower with all information that is needed concerning to the challenges that Israel faced. And we are currently active in 20 parliaments across Europe, including also the European Parliament. And we see that all together, you know, the members of Parliament are standing up like a diplomatic iron dome in order to face all these attacks.
Himanshu Gulati, what is the force that compels you to work for Israel?
So my support for Israel started because of Israel's fight against terror. The way that the Israeli society was attacked by bus bombings, restaurant bombings in the 2000s really awakened my conscience. And therefore, in my entire political career, I've been a very strong supporter of Israel's right to defend itself, and that we, as a country, should support Israel's fight against terror and violence.
You are a member of the Parliament of Norway, and the current government, has been labeled the most hostile towards Israel in Europe. What is your reaction to that?
It's shameful. The Norwegian government should stand behind Israel. That does not mean that we need to agree with Israel's government on all policies, because also I am critical to some things that Israel do, but we should stand behind Israel in its fight against terror and in its right to defend itself. And I'm certain that after the elections, we will have a new government, that Progress Party, Fremskrittspartiet, will be part of that government, and that we will see Norway become a partner with Israel, not anti-Israel in its policies, as is the case today.
Yes, I wish you all the best with that. And when you look at the fellow parliament members, where do you get your support?
So in the traditional Israel Friends Caucus in Norway, we have had a lot of members from Fremskrittspartiet, the Progress Party. We have had members from Høyre, the Conservatives. We also have Ola Borten Moe from the Center Party and members from Venstre, KrF. But I wish that more members of the government parties also became members. And who knows, maybe in the future in the caucus, we will also be able to have members from the Labour Party. They have had proud traditions supporting Israel earlier, not least during Håkon Li's time, and I hope we can see those good days again.
Well, thank you very much, and God blessings with all you have to do here.
Thank you so much.
Josh Reinstein, when did you get involved with this kind of faith-based diplomacy?
Well, we started the caucus in the Knesset in 2004. I was the founder of the caucus together with a member of Knesset, Yuri Stern, Alav Shalom. And together we started this new relationship between Jews and Christians in the 21st century. We did not know it would grow into a global movement. Today we have 54 Israel Allies Caucuses in 54 countries, including Norway. We have 1,500 legislators in our network, and faith-based diplomacy has become the most important weapon that Israel has in its diplomatic arsenal. It's the reason for about 80% of our diplomatic successes today. Everything from embassies being in Jerusalem once again, to anti-BDS and anti-Semitism legislation around the world, to even having observer status in the African Union, can all be traced back to Christians taking their biblical support and turning it into real political action.
So when you address the Christians, how do you look upon the anti-Semitism that is also rising in Europe and in the world today?
Well, we're seeing anti-Semitism rise in some of the mainline churches and some of the street, but Bible-believing Christians who believe in the Bible, have become the most important base of support for Israel. In fact, we look at Jewish people and Christians people as two people walking up the mountain from different sides, and we finally came to the top and starting to see each other. And this new relationship between Jews and Christians has been able to flourish because of that. You have to understand that the Bible-believing Christian community was very small in 1948. When Israel was established. And that was because they always held on to the idea that the covenant between God and Abraham is an everlasting covenant, and they would be grafted into that covenant. Mainline Christian churches were very much against it because they believed that the church replaced Israel. And so when God created Israel in 1948 and the prophecies started to being fulfilled, from the ingathering of the exiles to the deserts blooming to Israel becoming a light unto the nations through their technologies, all the Christians around the world who believed in that covenant said, hey, look, we were right. This is what we've been talking about all along. And that started a movement of other Christians coming to the Bible-believing Christian movement. So for example, in 1948, Brazil was 100% Catholic. Today, it's a third Bible-believing. So we're seeing incredible support from that community, but also the mainline churches are starting to wake up and say, hey, we want to be a part of what God is doing. So we're seeing a lot of support from Catholics and Anglicans and Presbyterians, which we never did before. So it's true, this is a new relationship that's forming together, but it's growing in leaps and bounds exponentially year after year. And today we see it as one of the greatest forces for Israel around the world.
Wonderful to hear. When you look at the situation where you have the war towards Hamas after October 7, do you have seen any changes in the work that you do?
I think so. We see a lot of change. First of all, this is the first war in Israel's history where we're not alone. There are millions of Christians around the world who are rallying, acting, supporting the state of Israel like never before. You can only look to the Trump administration that just came in. The base of the Republican Party are Bible-believing Christians who stand with Israel, and that's reflected in their policies, in the people who are filling the cabinet posts. You have the most Bible-believing administration in the history of America. For the first time, the ambassador from America is an evangelical Christian, not a Jew, Mike Huckabee. And so it's changed a lot. But also, the attacks of October 7th were so vicious. We're talking about babies being beheaded and put in ovens, women being raped in front of their family, full families tied together and lit on fire, Holocaust survivors stolen from their beds and taken to the Gaza tunnels, that the world now can see very clearly who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. The people who are making excuses for Hamas, who are siding with Hamas, are the bad guys, and now everyone knows it. So for example, it was very unclear before who is a good guy and who's a bad guy. Turns out the head of the state of Germany, good guy, came to Israel, stood with Israel, who knew? Turns out, unfortunately, the government of Norway, bad guys. They support Hamas. They took all their position and put it behind a terror organization. So now there's, for the first time, clarity. And so the people who are on the side of Israel understand who's against them. And not just Israel, but against Judeo-Christian values, which we hold dear. So there's an incredible clarity at the same time as Christians rising up in governments all around the world.
The situation with the Norwegian government and the diplomatic issues when you have called back the ambassador, how do you think that can be solved?
I don't think it can be solved with this current government. In fact, I don't think a lot of people understand how anti-Israel this government is. Right after October 7th, the first thing it did was declare a ceasefire before we could even defend ourselves, saying we need an immediate ceasefire in Israel. The second thing they did is they gave a reward to the Hamas terror group by declaring a Palestinian state against the Oslo Accords. The Oslo Accords are for a negotiated state on both sides. They actually are in violation of the Oslo Accords and unilaterally declared a state, which is shocking since it's called the Oslo Accords. Then they joined South Africa, another bad actor, and they took us to the International Court of Justice, Israel, not Hamas, for war crimes for defending our citizens. This is a country that did everything to try to mitigate the civilian casualties on the other side. In fact, in the history of urban warfare, there's never been less casualties than there is in this conflict, yet they are taking us for war crimes. I just learned that when the king of Norway wanted to give condolences to Israel after October 7th, the government said, no, don't. So it's not just that they aren't pro-Israel or they're in the middle. This is a terror-supporting government. And so there is no reproach with this government. That's why we pulled our ambassador. It's a very serious thing for us to pull our ambassador. We don't do that lightly. But Israel pulled their ambassador. And so I only think that the only solution is to have a different government in Norway, and I hope that happens in September.
Leo van Doesburg, you are the head of the European branch of Israel Allies Foundation. So you have been watching what's happening in Europe and also seen the Norwegian position towards Israel. What can you say?
Yes, in Europe we see different positions. Like we see really countries standing up for Israel, like Czechia, Hungary, different countries really standing hand in hand. And we see countries who actually follows the propaganda which was followed by Hamas. And unfortunately we see in Norway a very hostile reaction towards Israel, as what was Mr. Reinstein already said. But I also believe that, I was also at the symposium, and I see also that there is a lot of support from the people to Israel. So I'm really looking forward to the elections and hope that there will be a change and that this friendship between Norway and Israel can be restored. Besides also I see a kind of a shift if we look to the European Parliament, for example. There have been elections and the majorities have been changed, and in the past we saw in the European Parliament there were all kind of resolutions made against Israel, but that's not so much happening anymore. It's more about debates, and we see that there is a growing awareness in the European politics towards the situation in the war with Gaza and Israel, and also after the elections, the
High Representative who's dealing with foreign affairs with the European Union, has been changed. Borrell, who had a very aggressive, hostile policies against Israel. Now we have a new commissioner, Kallas, and she seems to be more open to the situation. So I believe that within the European politics there is more a kind of an awareness about the situation. Also what we saw is that after the attacks, what Mr. Reinstein said, we saw that Christians were really standing up, even though sometimes they were attacked fiercely, but they were able to raise up their voices. And you see the commitment, and you see that really people are standing up for Israel. So, so it is divided, but I believe that we can develop in a good way. We see that in different countries there are changes, like for example in Sweden, who had a more hostile position towards Israel, and after the elections that has also been changed. We see it in different countries, like in Italy, that's more favorable on Israel, in the Netherlands. So you see also a movement going on towards a change in politics, and we hope that in Norway will also follow this example.
So when you look at this change, what is the driving force behind that? Is it more education, or what do you think?
Partly, but there's also the fear on the immigration, and also if I give an example about the Netherlands, there were streets full of aggressive demonstrations. They call it the pro-Palestinian, but I call it more the anti-Israel demonstrations, creating riots, vandalism, and so on. So there is also kind of a fear of Islam fundamentalism, also education. And concerning to Israel, I see that although the general media tend to be biased against Israel, you see more and more on social media more coming up with facts. And I believe also the atrocities from Hamas, which was shown, also now lately when the hostages were released, how that has happened, and people getting more and more aware what is going on.
So it's like the common sense then?
Yeah, I think that there is a kind of a place that people are seeing like, well, we need to vote differently. And we see that we see that in the Netherlands, we see that in Sweden, we see that in Italy, we see that in Spain, we see in different countries, we see that, that the more right parties are gaining influence. And it's also a cry from the society towards the politics.
A few weeks ago, or months, we had a football match with Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv, was it that?
Yeah, actually, I was in Amsterdam. I participated to the remembrance of the Kristallnacht in the Portuguese synagogue. It was on the same evening. And a few hours later, there was a Jewish hunt in Amsterdam. So what happened that the taxi drivers, they agreed with each other. They were on a Telegram app. They were sharing messages in order, to hunt the Jews. And that was terrible. And the Jewish community there organized a safe place where the supporters could go. And in the Jewish communities, and we as well, tried to arrange a transport to the airport. And that was a very having situation. I came home from the remembrance of the Kristallnacht when we were talking about the concerns of the rise of anti-Semitism in the Netherlands. And you come home and you got those messages, what is going on? And I says, I could not believe it, that
we are coming in that situation.
So the first thing that need to be arranged was the safety and the transport for them to go to the airport. And then after that, unfortunately, you saw exactly what happened after 7th of October. First, people on the television, they were condemning the attacks. And then after that, you see right away that the victims became the perpetrators, and they started to blame Maccabi as being hooligans and so on. And
it is terrible again that you see that the whole narrative started to change. And
And this moment they tried, to find
the how do you call it, the criminals who were doing this, but it was clear that it was planned before.
It was not like spontaneous going on, because this Telegram group amongst the people,
They were planning this beforehand.
From the viewpoint of the Israel Allies Foundation in Netherlands, were you able to address this conflict that happened on this very day?
Yeah, of course, we have a caucus in the Dutch parliament, and they were addressing this, of course, right away. The concerns, asking questions to the government about this. From Israel, the Minister of Foreign Affairs came right away to the Netherlands, so it was drawing a lot of attention. And from the political side, it was condemned right away. What the difficulty was is the attitude of the Amsterdam mayor on this situation. That was in a range of other things that has happened. For example, the mayor, when the Holocaust Museum was opened, when President Herzog was visiting the Netherlands, the mayor actually allowed to have an anti-Israel demonstration right on the way where people were walking towards the Holocaust Museum. And the biggest scandal is that, for example, a grandfather and a grandchild, a Holocaust survivor, went through shouting anti-Israel demonstrators, which was a disgrace
On the way
to the Holocaust Museum being confronted with anti-Semitism. When there was the remembrance of the 7th of October on the Dam in Amsterdam.
also we had to go through
The anti-Israel demonstrators who tried to get the Israeli flags from us and so on. So the role of Amsterdam in this situation is really, and they put it as an excuse that a demonstration should be visible for an event. But the 7th of October was a remembrance, it was not a demonstration. The opening of a Holocaust museum was not a demonstration.
So the role of Amsterdam in this case is very
Controversial in my point, saying it diplomatically.
Thank you. When this chapter of Israel Allies Foundation or Caucus in Norway is, getting a restart, what can you say of words of encouragement to them?
Well, what I see, it is already an encouragement that you have a number of different members of parliament coming together. And we see in different countries, like for example in the Netherlands and in other countries, that a small group, if you are standing together for Israel and you have the right information, you can change things. And I believe that the situation in Norway will change. If I see the support in the society also for Israel, I believe that there can be a new beginning. I can believe that if members of parliament of different parties are working together, having the right information, that their situation can be changed. And sometimes it will be a struggle, but also
I see in other countries that really things can change. For example, in the Netherlands, the caucus or members of the caucus together, they were discussing about suspending the funding for UNRWA, for example. And other countries, like in the Czech Republic, they also collaborated together for a call of moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and for others. See, so sometimes it can be small steps, it can be bigger steps, but I believe, if there is a collaboration, even if it's small, if it's bigger, I believe that things can be changed, also in Norway.
Jan-Erik Berg, you have been looking forward to this day for a long time. So what is your reaction after Josh Reinstein and the European Director Leo van Doesburg have come here to restart the Christian Allies Caucus?
Of course, that's a good foundation, and it's a good start It's very important that we have a solid collaboration and base and fellowship around the case. So, and we had a wonderful start on Friday at the Oslo Symposium. I think that was couldn't be better. So many people has been introduced to the important task that we are trying to solve.
So you are the National Director for the Israel Allies Foundation. What is your role in this?
For me, it's for the start coordination, established organization in Norway, together with Himanshu, that he's responsible, has the responsibility here at the Parliament. And of course, to be a connection and distribute important information, to participate in education, because I strongly believe that most of the situation in Norway is because of lack of knowledge. Because the Norwegian people is a peace-loving people, and I think a lot of what you see today is wrong information. It is deceivements from different kind of sources. So I hope that we can change the attitude towards Israel, and that the people of Norway can change its attitude. So, and I hope so. I believe in the Norwegian people.
When you look at the political situation with the government we currently have, do you think it's possible to change them?
I really don't know. I think it's important to have a hope, but what you see today, it's not very promising, but a lot of people in those parties are nice people, actually. So I think if they are open to receive other perspectives and receive some information that they maybe not have today, so maybe. I'm also always in the positive thinking, but what you see today is not very nice, of course, but I hope.
It's always good to have a hope for a better government, and if not that happen, we will have an election in the 8th of September.
Yes, I hope so, and I hope that we will have a change, of course, because I have another political platform than the current government. So, of course, and I think that will be, if so, it will be a better situation, more easy to change.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.